Entering the atmosphere in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri. Reunited, joined again once again as always by Dakota Lasky, Doom Little Crossing. Still riding high from the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond reveal. How are you gentlemen doing? Dak, what's going on in Jersey, buddy?
Not too much, man. We've had, I don't know about y'all, but the weather has been all over the place recently. We've had thunderstorms and a bunch of rain and wind off and on with really bright and sunny and super hot days. So, yeah, otherwise pretty normal. And we have a nice holiday weekend to look forward to. Yeah, everything's pretty good.
I saw you finish first place in something over in your neck of the woods. What's going on there?
Yeah, so some of y'all know I've been doing some sim racing online, but I've also been racing go-karts competitively in real life, like in person. And about a month or two ago, I think it was the end of May, so about a month ago, or beginning of May, I don't know. I did a karting endurance race, which was like a 2-hour race, like a team race. I did it with one other driver. It was like 130 laps or something down in Millville, New Jersey, at the New Jersey Motorsports Park. And last time we didn't win, so we wanted to do it again and give it another go, and we won. Me and my teammate. So shouts to Roland, who is definitely not listening to this show. I don't even think he's ever heard of Metroid, but maybe I gotta get another Metroid fan, a new Metroid fan somehow. And he's probably more of a Nestroid type of guy, so I think he'd dig that. But anyway, yeah, that was cool. And it was a really awesome race. We took first place, which was great. And then I was exhausted the next day, so I spent the day watching F1, NASCAR, CEO. The tournament was on, and then I also watched the AEW pay-per-view. I don't know if you caught that, Andy.
Oh, but, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was on. So
I'm actually I'm buying tickets tomorrow to go see the finals of the Owen Hart Classic, the tournament.
Really?
Yeah, next week.
Oh,
it's
cool.
taking place in
Nice.
Calgary, so
right.
See
okay,
my man Brian Danielson, a couple other favorites that I'm looking forward to that. So
Yes.
yeah, that's cool.
Are you gonna be like viewable in the crowd? Are you gonna be a hard cam?
You know, I'm not sure. I haven't got to that point yet, but if I am in the hard cam, I might need some suggestions for signs.
You gotta do a sign, yeah. You gotta do a sign.
Like I don't know. I need some suggestions, so I'll have to pick your guys' brains. Doom, what's going on the other side of the country over in your world, buddy?
It's very hot over here right now. It's nothing but triple digits. I am very grateful that that my location in Lowe's has great air conditioning and that I do not work in the outside lawn and garden department. I definitely send my thoughts over to all the workers in over there right now. But yeah, over in my neck of the woods, I don't have the 4th of July off, but that's okay because I pretty much had most of last week off, so it's kind of whatever. I'm honestly glad that I get a little bit more hours this week. You know, I'm a big fan of making money, and otherwise it's been going great. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is still a real game. Very much a fan of that. And then in terms of my gaming life, I finally 100%ed Spider-Man. I've been trying to do that for like a month now, just trying to find the time to do it was a little difficult, but we finally got there. Tried out Fallout 3. I don't think this game is for me, unfortunately, but
What?
I am grateful.
Fallout 3?
Not for me, unfortunately. I think a lot of it is just those encumberment mechanics. I think I'm gonna try to do a mod sometime down the line to take those away and then try to get back into it. But I am still really grateful that at the very least the games aren't for me, that show really worked for me so that I can still have another avenue to really appreciate that universe and, you know, all that iconography. But for those who've been keeping up with my gaming backlog, that means the next game that I'm tackling, and I'm very excited, is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I bought this game at launch. Yes, I bought the remake at launch for the Switch. It's just been sitting there, and we're finally going to peel this thing open. Well, I bought a digital copy, so we're not peeling it open. But point is, we're finally playing this game. I'm so excited, and yeah, we were talking about this during the direct. I picked the perfect time to try out Mario RPGs.
Yeah, I've got a lot. I've got a bucket list of recommendations for you for RPGs in general. If this hits for you, yeah, you know what? It is one of the greatest holidays today that there is. It is Canada Day. So happy birthday to Canada. I think we're turning like 100 and I don't know 57 or something like that. I should probably know, but shout out to all of our Canadian listeners, which is a small contingent of us, but there are some of us there. Yeah, I've been plugging away at Perfect Dark on NSO, and actually, I'm gonna put a PSA out there to anybody listening to this podcast. And I had a few people try and help me, but to no avail. But I've got AM2R on my Android, and I bought a backbone to play it on, but the controller doesn't connect. So, man, if you are out there and you're smarter than me, which is probably everybody listening to this, message me, help me figure this out, because I cannot get it to work. The backbone works, but it's not compatible with the game, so I think it's the game itself. Unfortunately for me, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. That's really all the gaming I've been doing.
Real quick, I want to mention Steam summer sales going on, and I can't, since we're talking about games we're playing, I feel like I have to mention some of the awesome games I've picked up recently, including Garfield Kart Furious Racing,
Oh,
Soccer Online Ball 3D, regular Garfield Kart, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri Planetary Pack. These are all like $2 or $3. There's a lot of gems out there you can grab, so don't sleep on it.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm trying to
game
save...
of the year anywhere in the world. That's a who's who right there.
Yeah, I'm trying to save a little bit of money this year, but I did opt in and purchase the Metroid Trilogy. I already own all the games on Xbox, but I haven't played Exodus yet, and I wanted to play that on PC, and I figured, you know what, may as well just go all in and get the whole trilogy on PC while I'm at it.
I think I have one of the Metros on Steam from way back. Yeah, I sold a couple Counter-Strike skins on the Steam marketplace, so like, oh, I can buy $15 worth of games. What should I get? Because I was looking for some stuff to play while finishing up the most recent Destiny 2 expansion, which I just finished the campaign, which has been really great. So enjoying that a lot. And I just wrapped up one of the big finale activities for that. I got to do the raid next, so that's also pretty cool. So good stuff.
I have one last thing to say before we finally get to some Metroid here. And I don't know what's wrong with me, but like, I'm considering restarting Elden Ring, and I
saw you tweet that.
I don't like From Software. I don't like their games. They're not for me. They're just not for me. But man, I want to love this game. I really want to love it. And I played like 30 hours and I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I put it away, and I'm thinking of restarting it. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I was arguing with my brother-in-law last night about how there should be an easy mode, and he's like, pfft. And I was like, hey, I don't know. Easy mode is good for suckers like me. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to tweet it out or stream it or something.
I didn't finish it either, so I can't really hold you.
Yeah. All right. Well, what we got on tap here today is it's going to be a two-parter actually. So this week and next week, but obviously the internet is ablaze with excitement, with speculation, theories, chatter, just in general about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It's been a great week a great couple weeks now, actually, I guess, for the Metroid series. And naturally, we took a couple of weeks here and we gave you our reactions to the initial trailer. And then we went over some stuff that we thought that we might see in the story. But we kind of figured, like, why should we have all the fun? Let's get everyone else in on it. We asked everyone listening to this to submit some questions for us to answer. And we asked you to submit them on Twitter. We asked you to submit them in Discord. And you guys delivered. There are a whole ton of questions. So I think that this is going to be a two-parter. And there's a lot of ground to cover. So if you don't hear your question this week, we will get to it next week. And hey, I mean, like, if you want to throw in another one, we'll see if we could get to that as well next week. But yeah, we got a lot of meat on the bone here. So guys, I think maybe we should just kind of get rocking and rolling here and get right to it. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, we put all these questions into a doc, and I just was quickly counting how many we have. I think we have like 46 questions right now. So like we have a lot of questions to go through. course, some people submitted more than one, so we might not be able to get to everybody's question. But yeah, we got people from Twitter, from Discord. We'll jump around and get to as many of the, at least the, I'm pretty sure these are all Prime 4 questions, because I think everybody.
So. There's a couple like general Metroid ones in there, which is fine. But yeah, most of these are Prime 4. So, I mean, hey, if you don't hear your question this week, jump in Discord. You can still throw your question there. We'll try to get to it next week. Yell at us on
Discord and tell us to put your question on the show next week.
That's right. All right, let's rock and roll. You guys ready?
Let's do it. Andy, pick the first one. Go.
All right. We will start off with the Metroid Theorist. And Metroid Theorist over on Twitter says, if time traveling is going to be a potential mechanic, do you think the slow beam will be a weapon that returns from Metroid Prime Federation Force? It's something I've considered in the past, but what do you all think? What mechanics do you think this could serve? Really quick poll here between us three. How many of us remember using the slow beam in Metroid Prime Federation Force? And remember that there was a slow beam in Metroid Prime Federation Force.
I was about to say, I remember the beam. I don't think I ever used it once during my playthrough, though.
Okay. To be fair, isn't it like, I mean, is it like a beam or is it an item like that they use? Because I remember it being like, was it an equipable weapon? I don't know.
I'm gonna be honest. I have no.
Yeah, all of it. So everything outside of the basic power beam was an equipable weapon, I believe. Okay. So this was like one of those. You had this, you had like the ice beam, the electric beam. You had the missiles, the super missiles, the what are the little, not the energy tanks, but like the things that you could pop out to like heal teammates.
Yeah.
This was okay. Yeah, I'm looking at this now. Okay. So I thought this was, when I read this at first and you said slow beam, I thought you were talking about the old beam that I suggested last week. I'm like, oh, where you got that idea? But yeah, I mean, the slow beam is pretty much like a freezing ice beam, right? In a way, like I don't think that's necessarily would be out of the realm of possibility. I don't know if it would exactly be I like the old beam more than the slow beam personally, but maybe there could be like a fast forward beam. I don't know.
I to me, like time travel doesn't necessarily. I mean, I guess it could, like it in a very like condensed sense, like a slow beam. If you're like literally doing like Prince of Persia style time travel, for example, where like you're rewinding time in real time. But like when I'm kind of picturing time travel in the sense that we're talking about it, I'm almost picturing like for all intents and purposes, like a parallel world, like the same world, but just separated by centuries or however much. So like a slow beam, I don't know necessarily changes anything from that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's a much more macro beam to have if you're going to have like real time Prince of Persia style time travel. But I'm not like against it. I think that's like fine enough if you're going to do that, and maybe like you can slow the trajectory in order to do puzzles, but I also feel like you can do that without time travel too. So interesting question.
Yeah, I would also say, just on top of that, I feel like if you're going to introduce like, a very specific time related mechanic to the game, whether that be like a new beam or a new ability, or even like, the portals that we've been speculating on, at that final shot, I feel like you want it to be something unique and original. You're looking at the slow beam. That's already been done in Federation Force. That's not really something that's unique that really plays. I don't really think it could play. You could do something unique with it. But if you're just saying, oh, just take the beam from Federation Force and, put it in this game, I don't know about, how much that would add to the gameplay, because it's something, we've already seen it, and we've seen it, without, the time mechanics into it. So like, what makes this one different, I guess, is my question.
I do like the idea of there being some kind of weapon you can use that, you could solve puzzles to like speed things up, slow things down. I think in a combat sense, it would need to do some damage though, because I mean, it's not very satisfying in my opinion to have a weapon that doesn't deal damage, just slows stuff. I don't remember if the Federation Force one damages anything. If I'm reading, it just slowed stuff, but maybe it might have done some damage too. But like, again, like it's similar to like a freezing beam. Like I think if you're going to go from a combat perspective, it should be dealing some damage to some degree, probably. But I think the idea of like actively being able to play with the movement of time, like actively in the game, regardless of what time period you're in, is interesting and fun. Like that's similar to like what we were talking about last week with like the visors, being able to see stuff from actively in different positions based on what period it's in, like that kind of stuff. Where like, yeah, you might be in different time periods relatively in the world you're playing in, but like being able to actively engage with the world with some kind of time travel mechanic could be interesting. I think for a slow beam, that would be really cool, the puzzle angle, but I do think it would need to deal some damage for it to be more interesting than that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree with that. All right, let's continue here. This next question is from Austin Cool Guy. Cool name for a cool guy. Melee attacks.
My roommate.
I was pretty sure he was a buddy of yours. Shout out to Mr. Cool Guy.
Well, let Doom ask. And,
yeah, you go ahead, Doom.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I will happily do the honors. Absolutely. So, my man Austin Cool Guy Palmer asks, melee attacks were prominent in both of the latest 2D Metroids. Do you expect / hope to see them return in some way in the Prime series? Why or why not? Absolutely. We've actually talked about this on a few episodes. I know Dak and I, we really geeked out on the possibility.
Before you go too much farther, did you feed him this question?
Or I did not. No, this was entirely of his own.
Cool.
I didn't say a word. This is
all right. Nice.
This is entirely of his own volition.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, I know, Dak and I know you and I have geeked out on like all the different types of possibilities on like melee combat. I know one time we were talking about, the possibility of like, Samus, charging up a charge shot and then, bashing an enemy, and then maybe, depending on what beam she has selected, it could have like different effects, or maybe like a ground slam with the charge beam acquired to like, create like an AoE attack, and so absolutely, there's so many different possibilities, and I think, there's natural stuff that you could do with just, modern gaming conventions that have expanded in the last 20 years. But even so, I think there's so many unique potential that Metroid has in that realm as well. So absolutely, I would absolutely love to see melee combat. And I don't know, we haven't seen it yet in this first gameplay demo, but I don't know. I think we might the next time we see it, when they get a little more comfortable with some of the more new creative choices we see next time.
Yeah, I definitely hope for it. For two reasons. One, Metroid has been incorporating it into the games recently, and it's been fun, right? Even just like a simple like counter, I think would be effective. Like I'm thinking of like the flicker bats in Metroid Prime when you go into Phendrana Drifts and they like dive at you instead of having to like catch them, shoot them. You could just bash them in the air as they dive bomb you, which would be really fun. And on another level, I think it just makes sense. Like if you're in like a tight close quarters combat situation, you should be able to do some kind of melee. Like I feel like if it was a real situation, Samus would really be in a, like, even in like the manga, I feel like she's physically hitting stuff. Like in the cutscenes, she does, like she's not just fire. I mean, I guess in the Metroid Prime cutscene, she does just fire at stuff. But like, I don't know. I think there's an open opportunity for her to engage more realistically with stuff that is very clearly right in her face, etc. And I think they've gotten closer with that. Obviously, in the 2D Metroids with the melee counters, but even in like Prime 3 with like the grapple on like the pirate shields, right? Like that was a new kind of way to engage in close quarters with an enemy. So I think in those two regards, yes, I definitely hope for it. Expect it? Yeah, I expect it as well. Again, going back to, I mean, Samus Returns and Dread both had it and emphasized them really. So I think there will be some cues taken in that regard. Also, it just felt like there was a lot not shown gameplay wise.
Oh yeah.
In that trailer, that they were really holding back, and I could absolutely see the melee thing being one of those things. We know that there have been like Call of Duty and Halo developers brought to the team as well, and those games have melee attacks. Like it's a modern part of it. I mean, it was a part of FPS games before Metroid Prime came out. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, GoldenEye, you could karate chop people. So like, there was certainly an avenue for Metroid to catch up in that regard, but I think it just makes sense. I think it'll make the combat a bit more fluid. It doesn't make a lot of sense to be fighting someone just mashing your beam at them when they're 2 feet away from you, even though it is satisfying to do that with missiles. But yeah, I expect it. I hope for it. And I think they're actually not showing it so far to give us maybe a bit more of that the next time we see the game.
Yep. I will echo what you guys said. I hope for it. And I expect there were 3 specific, like, I guess scenarios where I think that melee combat would work, and I'm going to list them because I expect one of them. So the first one I'll list, I expect to be there. The second one's a little bit more far-fetched. The third one's a little bit more far-fetched than that one. So in order, I think you're totally right, Dak. Like, what the shriek bats are a great example. Like, I expect that you will have like a melee counter, like when an enemy's right in your face. If you press a button, you can get rid of the bat. You could block a pirate from hitting you, something like that. I expect that to be in the game. I think it should be in the game. The next thing that I would expect, and maybe expect is a little bit of a strong word, but like I would hope for, and like I think that this would be really cool if it did happen. I think like you might just get like a melee weapon, like, and why not? Like, I know we all kind of poked fun at like the idea of getting a sword or something like that, but like, why not get like a weapon or something like that you can use if your beams aren't necessarily cutting it? The third thing that I would hope for, and this is a little bit more far fetched, but like I think it would be really cool if they did bring back like the stylistic kills from like other M and Samus Returns and stuff.
That's
like
another thing I want separately from this.
Stun the enemies, whatever happens. Maybe if you block, you could block the enemy with the first melee thing that we talked about, and you do that 3 times, your enemy's stunned, and then you can go up and deal some massive damage. It'd be a 3D version of the melee counter from Samus Returns. So like, I don't know, that might be a bit rich, I think, but no, I think it'd be really cool.
I think you're on point. We need that. I mean, even Dread's cutscenes lean into that a little bit with how physical Samus is getting right and close personal with these enemies.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope so.
I was just going to say, I think that last scenario is actually the most likely one. I think of all those scenarios, I think the finishers would be the most likely one to be implemented. And I'll actually, there's a future episode where I'll go a little bit in more depth about that, but for now, I'll just keep it at that. But yeah, that would be absolutely sick.
Yeah, like Doom 2016 was the inspiration I had in my mind. Like when you stun somebody and chainsaw them, like, I mean, that's why can't we just do that, you know?
Give her like a chainsaw arm cannon attachment. Like just let her Gears of War slice through stuff.
Now we're talking.
By the way.
Give her the chainsaw shield from Dark Ages.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool if she had a shield at some point. Yes, I did mean the ice streak bats, not flicker bats. Flicker bats are the ones that fly around the main area.
Oh, I was picturing what you were describing. Yeah.
So make sure that. Thank you for calling me out on that, for catching my.
Did I say the right thing? I thought I said.
You
anyways,
said the right thing. I said the wrong thing.
I knew what you were saying, because I was like, that would be perfect. All right.
Yeah, so let's jump around a little bit.
We're gonna jump around. I got a question here.
Someone's got one highlighted. Let's go.
I got one.
Okay.
So this is from Dreaded, and I thought this question was really interesting because I didn't know how to answer it actually. And I'll kick us off here because I was formulating a thought. But the question is, of the entire trilogy, which game do you want Prime 4 to take the least inspiration from regarding mechanics, story beats, art design, etc.? Whether you believe that game's features are best left in its game of origin, or that they were just unfavorable features. Same question could be applied to which game you hope Prime 4 takes most inspiration from. Okay, I've got an answer here. Great question. Yeah. And it's hard because like there's things that I think each game does the best of the trilogy. But I think my answer is going to be, I hope that it takes mechanics the least from Echoes, for a couple different reasons. One, I wouldn't want to see the return of ammo, which I don't think is going to come back, but that's still, it wasn't my exact favorite thing. But two,
specifically, you mean, right?
Yeah, beam ammo. Sorry. Two, though, I will say this, like, one of the things that Echoes, not even that it didn't do well, but like its alternate world, the Dark World, which if we're kind of thinking that we're going to get a similar alternate world here, was a lot less interesting than the main world, right? And of course it is. It's a dark world. It's supposed to be gloomy. It's supposed to be desolate. Whatever. That's fine. But I would say that is what I wouldn't be looking for as well. And they'd already done this in Prime 3, but like I in my opinion, Echoes probably had the most egregious key search at the end of the game. Like, it almost seemed like you needed to find the hive, and then you needed to also find the key. So instead of, like, just finding the one spot that had an artifact or the energy cell or whatever, it seemed like you needed to do the work twice. So that's the first thing that came to my mind, although there's certainly some elements of Echoes I would like to see in Metroid Prime 4. I mean, Prime 4, that trailer certainly looked like Prime 3, but I think it's going to be sticking closer to how Prime 1 looks, and I think that's probably good.
Yeah, this is a really difficult question for me to answer because, I mean, I adore all three of these games. But that being said, though, and it's weird for me saying this because I am a big Echoes defender, but I think I might actually be in agreement with you, Andy, in terms of like what I want the least amount of inspiration taken from. I'm gonna say Echoes, which again, that might shock a lot of people on this podcast, as you know, Echoes is notoriously my favorite soundtrack in the whole series. The boss design I think is some of the best in the entire series. I think Metroid Dread is really the only game that's really rivaled the Echoes bosses for me at least. But for those exact same reasons that you pretty much brought up. And again, I am someone who loves the beam ammo system, but I think that's something that makes Echoes unique. I don't want that necessarily to be something that would return a mainline game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, Hunters did it well, but Hunters is also its own different beast as well. So I can accept it there. But like, I think for what Echoes was specifically trying to do, that system made Echoes unique, and I want Prime 4 to be unique. I don't think beam ammo is necessarily the way to do it. There is lots of stuff I do want to take from Echoes, but yeah, I feel like for me at least, it's just easier for me to like pick what I love about all three of the games and, you know, place those into my dream Metroid game. Like for me, for Metroid Prime, you know, it's that atmosphere and, you know, that map design and that subtle approach to storytelling. Those to me are like the three magical things I love from Prime 1. And of course the music. I would put both Prime 1 and 2 there for the music. And then for the for Echoes, what I would put is just the art direction, especially for, you know, stuff like Sanctuary Fortress, which I still is absolutely mind blowing to me today. You know, just what they were able to get out of, you know, that art direction just from Sanctuary alone on, you know, that little GameCube. And so I would love to see, you know, just Retro just get really creative and weird with that art direction for Echoes. The boss design, you know, I love how they incorporate both bipedal and morph ball gameplay elements into those bosses. You have kind of those classic fights like the Dark Samus fight where, you know, it's a bare knuckle brawl, but then you also have the puzzle fights like Quadraxis, and I think there's a really healthy balance of the two. And then Corruption, I think Corruption, you know, it's very large scale and cinematic. We've definitely seen a lot of those Corruption elements, as you already mentioned in that intro. And so, and also, you know, that grapple beam play, you know, I think, and the ship play, you know, that's something we've talked about. We really want to see that gunship get expanded on as well. And so those, to me, those are the three things that I would really like to see in Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, I'm certainly, there are definitely different things I would pick from all the different games and leave out from others. I think in total, I agree, probably Prime 2 that I would want it to take the least from. I think I actually would want it to take the art design the least, even though I like Prime 2's. I just feel like I want more contrast than we got in Prime 2. I feel like we got a lot more of that environmentally and character design wise in 1 and 3. So I would definitely, I mean, I love the difficulty of the game. I think, yeah, beam ammo probably can leave. I don't know if I necessarily want, I don't know. I'm still conflicted on whether or not I want like a 2 or 3 world system of stuff, but we'll see, because that might be where time travel is going, having like a past, present, future. I don't know.
I was thinking about
maybe
that.
Prime 2, but I think Prime 1 is what I wanted to pull from the most. Prime 2 probably the least, or yeah, if we're talking about the main games. But yeah, that's where I would be.
I think there is something to be said too. I left this out, but just to really quickly put a bow on this, like when you're playing Prime 2, it's kind of right in the middle of like in Prime 1, it's a very interconnected world where you're going all those areas very frequently, going back and forth, and Prime 3 is kind of the other direction where you could usually do like one area, not really have to come back if you want to, the second area, not really come back if you want to, where Prime 2 was sort of in the middle of that, where mostly you could do one area and leave, but you did have to come back a couple times for like the Power Bomb Guardian or some other things too. So like I kind of do feel like I'm fine with either direction, like the Prime 1 or the Prime 3, but maybe just like pick one. That's what I would end with as well.
I definitely prefer the Prime 1 style. Specifically, I like the road trip style, as I call it. I think Super Metroid is kind of the gold standard of you know, that kind of map exploration, and so I would like to see it pull, you know, from Prime 1 and Super especially. But I think Echoes specifically makes it, you know, the more Zelda dungeon style, as I like to call it. I think that it works in that context because of that light and dark world mechanic. So theoretically, depending on how time travel works, it could work. But just on base of what we know right now, if you put a gun to my head, what do you want? I would say, give me that classic road trip style exploration. I love
Yeah.
that feeling. I love that feeling of, the next item, the next path could literally be anywhere, rather than, oh, I know it's going to be confined in this specific area. That's always one of my favorite moments in a Metroid game, is figuring that out.
I tend to agree with that. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
I got some because we spent some time on those. Let's jump around to a few quick ones here. I'm gonna start jumping around this document and looking for some that stick out to me. Here's one from Quaid. Do you prefer Samus's big shoulders or smaller shoulders in the Prime series? Important question. Big shoulders, small shoulders? What do we got? What do we got,
I
guys?
think
Yeah,
this
so-
is an important question. There's a lot of people that are like very, very particular about this detail. I feel like I'm indifferent. I'll be honest with you. Maybe I'll pick the smaller shoulders. I think that they just look a little bit sleeker, a little bit cooler, like the Dread style. But I do love me a big shoulder pad. I like that a lot. I'm indifferent. But I know that I think you have some strong feelings about this.
Yeah, so when the trailer initially came out, and we talked a little bit about this last week, but when the trailer first premiered, I was very vocal in the Discord that I didn't like the trailer. I have since grown very much in the opposite direction. I kind of just had to get used to what I was seeing, and now that I've had time to process everything, now I love what I'm seeing, and I'm genuinely hyped for this game. So that is past me. That is no longer relevant. But one of the things that did catch my attention first was that new slimmed down suit, the new proportion. Frankly, the more accurate proportions, if you will, that are more
realistic,
anatomically correct. Yeah, and so at first, I felt really strongly. I didn't like them. But as I've had more time to adjust to it, it's grown on me a lot, and I actually really like that design. Is it my preference? I genuinely don't know. I will say, though, there are there's plenty of other suits in the series with, those more anatomically correct proportions. You mentioned the Dread suit. That's one of my all-time favorites in the series. I absolutely love that. Even the base power suit design, I'm a big fan of that, especially the Samus Returns version. And then the light suit from Echoes also has some fairly small shoulder pads, and I think that's like one of the coolest suits in the series as well. So, if we're talking across the whole series, I'm pretty indifferent, but in terms of Prime 4, I'm really digging this new look, I gotta say.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of the bulky look for Samus, especially from the original Metroid Prime. I love just how tanky she looked, and it felt like perfect with the tank controls and whatnot. On the other hand, I can totally concede to the fact that it's totally true that she had no peripheral vision, possibly because of those shoulder pads. So, from seeing the Prime 4 look, and even just quickly pulling it up again for myself, she very much looks more like what she looks like in Prime 2 and Prime 3,
Mm.
but almost like this is what I remember it looking like almost. So, it I think she looks great in Prime 4. I honestly still think that her shoulder pads look pretty big. She can just kind of see over them now. They're still pretty sizable pauldrons. Definitely takes more from the 2 and 3 design of the suit though. So personally, I'm a big fan of her having shoulder pauldrons at all. I definitely prefer them to the much smaller ones of the Dread suit. So in that regard, if we're going for that comparison, yes, I prefer bigger ones. But I do like the uh, the adjustment that was made so that way Samus can actually kind of see around them and they're not too big.
That's important. You gotta see.
Yeah.
You gotta see. All
Um,
right, you got some
okay.
more lined up?
I do.
All right.
Okay, let's find another one. Let's see. Jumping around here to some. Let's go back up to one of the Twitter questions. Okay. All right, this one real quick. ZVM117. How many copies are you buying?
All of them.
Ooh,
Okay.
well, that depends. That depends on what kind of release we're talking here. Like, if it's a dual release, then 2 copies for sure for Switch and for Switch 2. I could see myself get. So I've bought a couple, 5 copies maybe of Metroid Prime Remastered. I gifted one to Gooey. I gifted one to Adriel. I bought 2. I don't know why. One digital, one physical. One. God, I gave it to someone else too. So I probably like a couple, but I'm not like super like crazy. Like I think Doom's probably gonna buy like 17 copies. I'm not gonna buy that. I'm gonna buy one for me day one. I'm gonna really try and get an advanced copy, and I'm gonna try. This is probably going to be like they're gonna shoot me down, but I have a few contacts with Nintendo Canada, so I'm gonna try and get that.
Okay.
But we'll see. But so
Canadian
that'll be one. It'll be definitely 2 copies if it's dual release, and probably a couple gifts. So I don't. 5 maybe. That sounds pathetic though. I feel like 5 copies of one game. I don't know.
That's a good one. I think one for each version that it comes out on of the console. Probably a digital version.
Yeah, a special edition if there is one.
I'm buying at least 2 or 3 special editions. I think I'm probably going to buy at least 4. I mean, I feel like I bought 3 or 4 of the Dread ones because I know I have 3 still, and I gave one away for a giveaway we did a year or so ago. I'm buying, and then I might gift it to somebody. I'm going to be buying a bunch of copies for sure. Great question. I agree. Doom. You going to put a real number to it?
Doom's those are rookie numbers.
Yeah.
No, so I'm thinking it's like, okay, I'm definitely gonna buy a digital copy and a physical copy. 2 physical copies if we're talking a dual release, because gotta have a 2 of each of the boxes for the collection. If there's multiple box arts in each region, that's gonna crank the numbers up as well. Like with Prime Remastered, Japan, they got the a recreation of the Japanese box art, so I had to get a sealed copy of that. If there's a special edition, I'm gonna have to get 2 of those because I need 1 sealed special edition and 1 to open up and display the contents. So I'm a madman.
Don't forget the Funky Kong version of Metroid Prime 4 too. You gotta get that one.
And the special.
Both made by Retro, so it's not impossible.
All right, I got one more for this streak right here before I hand the keys back over to someone else.
All right, Doom, you're up next.
All right, so I like this one. This one I discussed a little bit on the Discord, but I was curious to see what y'all thought about it. This one's from Metroda. Should there be a lock-on mechanic added to the Morph Ball? They could possibly add more combat features to it and add new boss battle mechanics where you have to utilize more of your total powers instead of just spamming one attack. I think they also made a comment where like it might make it a little bit like playing a Sonic game, but I personally thought it was a fantastic idea and something that I was surprised I never really even considered, considering all of the Prime games have lock-ons for just shooting. So I thought the Morph Ball having a lock-on would be actually a really cool idea. I'm totally down for that.
I think I am too. Yeah, I guess my thing is like, well, why not? Why not have it?
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna take away. Like, it's not like you have a limited amount of buttons. So it sure would make some things easier. Like in particularly if you are in combat mode, and maybe there's some more situations like in Prime 2 where you're in doing battle in Morph Ball form a little bit more. Why not? Like, that could be cool. And if you're gonna do that, maybe you can augment that with like a reason to lock on to things more. Like maybe you could use your grapple beam when you're in Morph Ball. Maybe they could make the spider ball an actual spider and you could shoot a web out. And I know that sounds cheesy, but like, I mean, imagine it's almost like your grapple comes out of your Morph Ball. That would be kind of cool, I think.
Like a yo-yo grapple.
I know it sounds dumb, but like I think that could be kind of cool, right? Like the spider puzzles that you do in Metroid Prime, but like you got to grapple across and like you got to lock on at the right time. Like I think that could be cool. Maybe there's maybe power bombs change. Maybe you can like throw power bombs at specific enemies and whatnot. So yeah, I feel like my answer to the question is like, yeah, why not? Like it seems simple enough. Why not?
Yeah, I never thought of that idea too, but like when I was reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, that actually it's
not a bad idea.
It's so simple, but it sounds brilliant. That sounds perfect, especially because how much of a fan I have of those Morph Ball fights in Prime 2. This sounds like a really nice quality of life change to where you could end up stacking some more variables on top of that. I absolutely love that idea. I'm totally down.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great idea. So good job there, Metroda. All right, Doom, do you wanna pick a few that pique your interest here?
Yeah, I was just going through the list and I found one that I remembered reading in the Discord, and this one caught my eye.
All right.
So this one is from Dreaded as well. So answering another one from Dreaded. For the next Smash game, if we could only choose one, would we either give Samus a fully revamped moveset that far better represents how Samus has evolved throughout her games, potentially with some Prime 4 features, or 2, get either Sylux or Ravenbeak as new characters, or both, whatever's a harder decision. Well, I feel like we gotta choose one or the other. I feel like choosing both is too easy there, because I would
Let's
definitely
keep it
choose.
to
Let's
Silence.
just say a new Metroid character, and you can have it for whatever you want.
Let's-
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it would be Sylux at this point, to be quite frank with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't say it's impossible. I mean, anyways, that's not the point.
I'll jump in on this one. This is tough. On one hand, I really dig a new Samus moveset. On the other hand, I think, I don't know, at this point I'm like, there should be some characters in Smash that maybe aren't in Smash yet. And I always think the possibility of a new character in Smash that's not like a Minecraft Steve or a Sora or another Fire Emblem character is very exciting. So for me, I'm gonna say I would rather see Sylux. And as unfortunate as that means we wouldn't get another updated Samus, I'll be playing. I won't have to worry about that because I'll be playing Sylux. So I think a new character would be cool. I love seeing fan favorites make the jump into the Smash roster. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with his lockjaw, and obviously shock coil would be really devastating.
Yeah.
And he's a really cool character. I think it'd be really dope. So I would say put in Sylux and Smash. Unfortunately, Samus has to. Maybe we consolation prize Samus keeps the same moveset, but she gets an updated look, so she looks like from Metroid Prime 4 as well instead of other M still. So I'll take that along with Sylux. But yeah, if I had to pick between the two, I'd take Sylux over a new Samus moveset.
You know what? That's where I was going to go with that, actually, is if Samus's look was updated, I think I could live with a new playable character like Sylux or Ravenbeak or both. Like, that'd be cool. I am begging for like an upgraded version of, frankly, most of the characters. Like Link, I think needs a new moveset in the worst
12.
way. Yeah, exactly. Samus, yeah, like she definitely needs a new moveset. But I will say this: like sometimes you see the moves tweaked a little bit in the game to like they're not completely different, but like I think Link's boomerang changed from one game, and it was the Gale boomerang in the next game, which had like a little wind property added to, like little things like that. Maybe if you gave Samus a new look and you gave her, I don't know, maybe the screw attack is different or whatever. Or I don't know what that looks like, but like something to give her some
They gave her an
zazz.
air dash. They gave her the flash shift.
Or yeah, like maybe
Make
that's
it
her.
broken.
Yeah, like something. I would go with Sylux, but I really was tempted to pick like update Samus's moveset because I think of the original 12, like Samus and Link really stick out to me as like, and Donkey Kong to an extent as well, like stick out to me as people that need like an updated moveset for sure.
Yeah, honestly, of all the characters, DK is the huge one that like sticks out to me because there's like, like how is the barrels like not at all implemented into his moveset, or like a minecart? That's like, how did Steve get a minecart and not DK? That's insane to me. But
you
whatever.
know what? I'll throw in Luigi too. Actually, Luigi needs an upgrade, a new moveset.
To me, they've been doing a little bit more with him at least. Like they finally gave him the poltergust at the very least, and turned it into his grab.
Mm-hmm.
They at least did that. But yeah, I totally agree there. But yeah, this is another tough one for me because I pretty much agree with both your arguments. Whereas on one hand, I feel like Samus absolutely needs an update, but at the same time, as a Samus man, I also kind of like the way she plays. So I don't know. It's one thing where, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, it does need to be fixed at the same time. You can definitely see the age, the wear and tear there. And so I think just to say something different, just to play a little devil's advocate, I'm going to go with the Samus upgrade on this one. But I think, I mean, either of those scenarios I think are great scenarios if you ask me.
Yeah, totally. Okay, well, Doom, do you have any more, or do you want me to jump back in here? Any other ones that are sticking out to you?
Pick one from someone we haven't heard from yet.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I'm looking at Kevin PDZ right now, and Oh, here we go. Here's one where Dak is specifically mentioned. Let's do that. If Dak is
That's not
right,
good.
if Dak is right, and the forest area in the trailer is Tallon Overworld from Tallon IV in the far past before Phazon came, could we expect to see Chozo Ruins, Magmorph, Andrana, and the Phazon Mines, what they also looked like years ago, or do you think it would be entirely new areas of Tallon IV, also not explored? That's a really good question. I actually really like the possibility of exploring brand new biomes and domains on Tallon 4 that just weren't in the game. I don't think they would do that if that's the case. I think we would mostly be re-exploring those same areas for that specific portion, or maybe one specific area like the overworld. But I personally think that would be awesome. Just because I mean, we've explored such a small portion of an entire planet. There's so much more, that's so many more mysteries to uncover, so much history that we haven't seen, and so there's so many more biomes, and so I think that sounds awesome personally. Do I think they're gonna do that? Probably not, though.
I don't know. I don't think that's really completely out of the realm of possibility. I don't see why it's. I mean, I definitely expect us to be retreading old ground if we're going back to Talon. But I absolutely expect there to be new stuff that we'd be seeing in new areas.
Yeah.
For the very least, I mean, the Phazon mines would be a different area for sure, probably because the mines wouldn't be there. So I think really what would happen is we go back and we get to experience like the ruins, the caverns, the drifts, the mines, the impact crater, all of that, and then you get more that we didn't reach to, that we didn't experience the first time. So you get to see like what the Chozo area was like beforehand, what Town Overworld was like. Maybe it was even more overgrown than what it is now. Like the Chozo ruins, like what did they look like before they were ruins? The Phendrana drifts and Phazon mines areas, like what did they look like before before Phazon showed up, before the space pirates showed up? But then you explore even more than that. There's another half dozen areas that we didn't get to. So I think if that's what we're getting, and it is Tallon 4 from the past, or on a timeline or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what I'm expecting. A mix of areas we already went to kind of see the difference and the contrast, and then also completely new areas that we didn't experience in the first game.
I mostly agree. I think that if you're going to Tallon 4 in the past, or some alternate version, and I still don't think that you are, I think that you'll have like one or two areas that are this sort of the same. Like I think Tallon Overworld would probably be, you could be in Tallon Overworld, and maybe you see some spots on the overworld that are familiar, but like I don't think that any area should be particularly like exactly like you remember it. Like maybe some specific landmarks, but like depending on how far back in time you go, right? Like that the planet should change. Like for example, I think that in a scenario like that, what you could see is you can go to Phendrana Drifts, but maybe we're back in the past to a time and place where like Phendrana is not an Arctic wasteland. It's actually just like a lush, beautiful forest or something like that. And you're right that the Phazon mines obviously don't exist. Chozo ruins, they're probably not ruins at this point. So like maybe you're in Chozo City,
or even the Chozo aren't even there at that point. They might not even be anything at all.
Yeah, like exactly. So I think that there's opportunity to revisit like maybe a select. Like I would say if I were to nail down one, I'd probably say you could probably revisit Tallon Overworld and see some sites that you might find familiar. But like again, a lot of the stuff that even in Tallon Overworld that you're going to see, like the Artifact Temple, like that's not going to be there. The Crash Frigate, that's not going to be there. So there is a lot of stuff that would look different, and it might as well be a new area even if you're exploring quote unquote the same area. So, but great question, really great question. Okay.
Yeah, Andy, pick one.
I've got one here. This is from New Supreme Man, and this is like a Q&A / a Samus's percentages here, so I like this. And it's a couple quick ones here right in a row, so we don't have to spend a ton of time on here. But New Supreme Man asks, what are your Samus's percentages for the following? Sylux's theme from Prime Hunters will be used in Prime 4 Beyond. I'd say it's pretty high, man. I'd say like 95. Is that too low? Like, I mean, I feel like its theme is coming back. You guys?
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't think it is. I think they're going to go with a completely new original piece of music for Sylux.
Okay.
I think it would be... I think it would be cool. I don't want the exact same thing from Hunter, but I think like if they reference like the dun 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 dun, dun if they reference like one of the little motif like that, I think that would be absolutely perfect. I'm not even sure if they'll do that, but I hope they do. I think it would be really cool to really cool nod to a game that usually doesn't get those kind of nods.
Yeah.
I think it's 100%. We're gonna get some variation. Like it's not gonna be the exact one, but it's gonna be some updated version of it.
Yeah, to clarify that's what I meant too. Like not the like literal like song, but like a theme akin to it. All right, second part of the question here: Sylux's ship, the Tallon 7, will return in Prime 4 Beyond. I'm gonna go pretty high on that too. I'm gonna go 94%, just so I don't give the same answer. I mean, I feel like it was teased at the end of Prime 3. Like, you gotta see it, right?
We gotta see it. I think I'm giving it a 97% for Tallon 7. I mean, I think it's almost 100%, if not 100%. Like 99.9, just because there might be some chance. But like, yeah, 100%. Like, we're gonna see Sylux and all of what Sylux has to offer in terms of what we know about them, and the ship is certainly part of that package. We gotta see it. We saw it at the end of Prime 3. Show us the ship. Gotta see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a 98 on this one as well. I feel like this is lock. I actually just realized I didn't give a percentage on my last one. I'm gonna go. I'll be the odd man out and go a 35 for the last one. But yeah, I'll go 99 for we see the Tallon 7 return. Absolutely.
Okay, and then third part of this question: will we see a Federation mech in Prime 4 Beyond? Who would like the honors for this one?
You know what?
I think this is not unlikely. I think actually, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I really think that this game might pull a bit more from Federation Force than we might come to expect or maybe even hope for. And I would not be surprised if we get to see a lot more Federation stuff that Prime 3 and Federation Force kind of worked at, and I think we could absolutely see some mechs show up if Samus is in a big fight and with a bunch of other Federation troopers, and they bust out the mechs to get the job done. I honestly, I would put it at like a 65-70% personally.
I was gonna go under 50. I was gonna go 41%, because I could see like generic mech showing up in like the background of a battle, and I guess that counts. I think that the spirit of the question is like, are you going to see the same like strike team that Federation Force team show up? And that one, I'm just like, I don't think so, brother.
I don't know if that was the spirit of the question. I don't know.
That's how I interpreted it. Anyway,
that's what I interpreted. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, I still think that's high.
I'm not gonna lie, and I say this as someone who absolutely despises Federation Force. I think that'd be kind of cool. Not gonna lie, just have a little redemption arc, a little Federation Force redemption arc where you can see these disgusting action figure chibi looking things, but now like
but they're cool.
The real Metroid Prime art style. Now is these like 2-3 story large mechs like causing havoc and being awesome. Like I think that would be super dope.
Totally,
you know what? You sold me. Actually, that would be cool.
I'm down for them to redeem the game. Maybe we don't bring back giant morph ball Samus, but like,
yeah, no one needs that.
Maybe, but yeah, I kind of like that redemption arc for the game. But I totally love the taking back of let's take some stuff from Federation Force and actually make it cool and make it work. And like I said, I do think we're going to be seeing a lot more from that game pulled than we might expect. I honestly think the mod system from that game is going to be brought back, and we're going to see a very similar type of thing in Prime 4 and pulled directly from that game. So I think that's definitely likely.
Yeah, I could see that. Like that, I would give a Samus percentage that's pretty high. You kind of sold me. That would be kind of cool to see. At least like the Federation Force, like a little Easter egg for those that know, So that would be cool. I gotta say, you gotta. I'm always a fan of redeeming and making. I did the other M cut. Like I think that there's a good game in there somewhere, and I'd say the same thing about Federation Force. So yeah, you won me over for that. That's cool. Okay, here we go. Let's go to another question here. This is from Paulson91. As much as I hate to ask this, should we prepare ourselves for a 2025 release date in the second half of 2025, more than a year away? I'm hoping you guys could talk me off a ledge, but I'm a little spooked that it's going to be November or December 2025 as opposed to the front half of the year. Paulson, brother, I think you probably should be worried, if I'm being honest. And now that's not a guarantee, but we don't know anything about when the Switch 2 is going to be released. And I would suggest to you that if we don't hear anything about the Switch 2 for the rest of this year, which I don't know how likely that is. Maybe it's likely, maybe it's not. But, I mean, we're halfway through the year. I think if you don't hear anything by, December, then you're probably doing the same thing that we did with the Switch, having a big blowout in January. And even then, we had already knew what the Switch was. The blowout was really just to promote the games that we're launching with it. So, I think if that's the case, like, there could be a chance where it launches in, Christmas. And, I would say to you this, like, it's been 7 years. Like, what's one more year? And that being said, too, like, at least you're going to know some stuff about the game going forward. Like, you'll see some trailers, you'll learn some information. It won't be... The year will pass by quickly. I'll tell you that. And I think if it is going to be a little bit of a longer wait for Prime 4, this is a separate question and we don't have to touch on this, but I think that the chances of maybe getting those Prime 2 and 3 ports go up to hold us over for the meantime. And also to get people ready for Prime 4. Maybe they don't, maybe they do, but moral of the story, I think it's not impossible and maybe not even unlikely that you're going to be waiting until this like November of 2025, but I think that's okay. We've waited so long. What's another couple months?
Yeah, I think now that we've actually seen gameplay, I know it's coming out. It's time. I don't know about y'all, but time flies these days. Like we're gonna be playing Prime 4 before we know it, so I'm not worried about it. It'll come out when it comes out. Personally, I do think that we are going to see the game though in about this time of 2025, like summer-ish, like a June or May release, something like that. That's what I'm expecting. Should we prepare ourselves for a 2025 release? Brother, there are many games out there. There are many experiences in life. Go give them a try. Doom's going through his backlog, like I'm sure there's a backlog that you've got. Like
I'll still be playing Elden Ring by the time November 2025 comes out.
So like I think like I agree. Like we've waited this long. We have footage. And honestly, it's not like this is the last time we're gonna hear from Prime 4 until the game comes out. Like there's gonna be other trailer. I'm excited for like not to say I'm excited for the marketing, but like I'm pumped to see like what they put out. If they do like a Dread Report type thing or like some other clips or they reveal some more exciting stuff in the coming trailers, like that'll hold me over. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe we even get a demo. Like that could be, maybe it makes an appearance at some shows and events in the coming months. Like the possibilities are endless. It's not like it's going to go radio silent until the day before the game comes out. So, yes, maybe we should prepare ourselves from that. Like, I don't necessarily see them putting Metroid Prime 4 as a big holiday release next year. I do see it as more of a summer type game or maybe a February type game. Like, I don't know if it's a December, November type game. They're probably gonna. That's Mario Zelda type territory, to be quite honest with you. So, I think maybe prepare yourself for it, but you'll survive, buddy.
I will play a little bit of devil's advocate first because, I was just talking about Paper Mario earlier, and that got revealed in the September Direct last year without a release date. It just said coming out next year. And I think unanimously everyone was like, oh, that's going to be like a fall 2024 title. Turns out, no, that was actually released at the very end of the first half of the year. Just a couple months ago now, yeah. And so, to play devil's advocate, still very much possible that Prime 4 could face something similar. That being said, I'm definitely on the side of it coming out somewhere in the second half of the year. Specifically, because I think all three of us agree this is going to be a cross-gen title for the Switch 2. And so I think really that Switch 2 is going to be the key determining factor of when this game comes out. Is that Switch 2 coming out in the first half or the second half of the year? Right. And so... And by that same point, kind of echoing what everyone else has said, I don't think you need to be talked down by any means, if it does come out, it's, like Dax said, time flies. I feel like I just turned 30 like a month or two ago and my 31st birthday is already coming up. Like time time just keeps going faster and faster. And, I was even telling people even before Prime 4 came out, I'm like, guys, the game is not canceled. You are going to be playing this game, not playing this game before you even realize it. And I still stand true to that today. The game will get here when we get there. We've seen it now. We have,
Right.
we have an actual time frame of when to expect it. So I think we're all going to be just fine. And I think we're here to celebrate. And it's a time to be happy, not a time to be worried, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I've got a question that I would love to jump in on if y'all do not mind.
Yeah.
This is from Kajira, who I believe was recently joined our Discord server, if I am not mistaken. So,
Hey, cool, welcome.
Welcome.
By the way,
once again.
If you're a Metroid fan listening to this, you want to talk some Metroid? Come on in. We don't bite.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you.
Love talking. We talk about a lot of stuff in the Discord. We've got channels for Metroid, just gaming in general. We have like a Halo Destiny channel, a speedrunning one, which we all gave up on the speedrun. We had a little bit of a speedrunning bug. We had that for a month or so, and all of us speedrunning athletes quit. But we'll see. Maybe we'll go back to a Metroid Prime 4 drops, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a speedrun showcase race. All the hosts of the show
Oh,
can see
God.
who can complete the game the fastest. I know Andy's excited for that too.
I mean, I'll do it, but you said speedrunning athletes. I'm kind of more like the John Daly type of speedrunning athlete. Show up unkept beard, cigarette in my mouth, probably finish in like 16 hours.
Hey, whoever gets you the win.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's take Kajira's question.
Yeah. Okay, so aside from seeing major characters like Sylux, do y'all think that we'll see some other new supporting characters, or will we see some? Well, I guess not, or returning characters like Admiral Dane or the Luminoths, maybe more speaking Chozos, maybe possible surviving hunters for Metroid Prime 4. So I think the crux of this question, and thank you for it, is like, are we going to see some new supporting characters? Do you think we'll see some returning characters from previous games? What are we thinking? Doom, what are your thoughts?
I definitely think we're going to see new characters for sure. I don't know how substantial they're going to be, but I definitely think we will get like new original named characters that aren't just like, the little like COD NPCs where, your guns on them and then they're like their name highlights on top of them. I think we will get some flat, at the very least, some flat NPCs that are original and unique to this game. As for returning characters, I'm not sure. As cool as I think it would be to see Weevil join the game, especially with Sylux teaming up with the pirates, I think that would be a really cool link. I don't know if he's going to appear. I certainly don't expect any of the other hunters to appear. I would love the Chadmiral to appear. My boy, Admiral Castor Dane is my man. I don't think he's going to be in this game though, unfortunately.
I think Admiral Dane has a big opportunity to be showing up. I don't see why we don't see him.
I think of all the characters, he's actually probably the most likely. Of all. Now, I'm not going to say my Samus' percentages. I don't think would be over 50, but it's not zero either.
No, I think he's a solid 55er.
Okay.
5, 6,
Really?
I would love
Why
to
not?
see Dane. I mean, really, like, why not? Like, it is a link.
Literally, why not? He would still be an admiral, right? Like, he'd probably could be like, all right, Samus, like,
You know what?
blah, blah.
You know what would be cool is if the game starts with the scene that we see in the trailer, and the Federation comes in, Sylux does whatever he's gonna do, and this guy mauls Admiral Dane, so he gets a big time heat. No, listen, he gets big time heat right away for taking out a fan favorite. Like, tell me that isn't like what you want for your villain.
I don't want that. I don't
No,
want
not
them to-
the Admiral. No,
You guys, I'm telling, that's the
I
move.
want-
That's the move
here's-
because then you're
No,
just like the
okay.
Sylux guy. He goes from a cool
no,
heel
no.
to someone you want to put down.
Here's what okay. How about this? Let's modify it a little bit. Admiral Dane is involved in a fight.
Okay.
Right, and doesn't get killed, but gets maimed, maybe.
Oh god.
Comes back later in the game. Now, I'm not gonna go. Let's not do like mecha or meta Admiral Dane or anything. But if y'all remember, there was that concept art
I
from
knew
Prime
you were going
3
there.
where he has a peg leg
I knew
and
it.
a cool sword and an eye patch, and I think he survives the dreaded Sylux attack. He comes back later with the peg leg and the sword and the eye patch, and he fights alongside you. Like, tell me that is way better than, because you think he's dead. The whole game you think he's dead, but then he comes back in a shocking twist and helps fight alongside you. That's what I would love to see.
That is shocking that Samus would be fighting beside Captain Blackbeard at the finale of the game.
Right? That would be shocking.
I can't say I would hate it, to be honest, but I don't know, man.
That would be fun. That would be great.
I will say, to echo what you said at the very beginning, I think that there'd be a small chance for Weevil to come back.
Agree.
I could actually, I would even see that as maybe even like a post-credit scene, like a tease for something that's coming up. Something like, other than that, like I'm pretty sure, like the Luminoth, I think should not come back. They're kind of doing their thing over on Planet Aether. They're fine. I mean, there really is nobody from Metroid Prime 1 to bring back. There's not really any named characters from Metroid Prime Federation Force except for the general that you talked to, Miles. But even then, he was just like a generic soldier who would be coming back in name only.
If you're gonna bring one of those type of figures, just bring back the Chadmiral, you know?
Well, bring back both of them. Maybe make Miles more of a character.
Which would be cool.
Miles. Miles is the one that gets healed by Sylux.
Oh, but that's not the same, because Chadmiral has more value than Miles does.
Like, I don't even know who that was. Like,
well, I mean, Samus might not know who that is. Literally,
Samus might not know. Yeah, I think. Well, first off, we've talked about on the show before. Like having the hunters return, that's a big thing. Some of them I don't necessarily need them to all return. I think Weevil and Trace would be really cool, though. I think I could also be down for that. Like Andy said, maybe teasing them at the end and seeing them later. Especially like Trace and the Kraken. I would love to see Weevil. Would be really cool. Admiral Dane, yes, definitely. I think Anthony coming back would be really fun, because that could be kind of like the because he says remember me and other M, like, hey, let's redeem Anthony as well, even though he doesn't need to be redeemed, but like let's get him out of that game and put him into a good game. Aside from that though, and maybe Miles, maybe a couple other nods to stuff, I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago. The universe is large. I don't want like I honestly would be okay with the Chozo not being involved, the Luminoth, like none of that. Like the universe is so vast. I feel like it makes it feel so small when like everybody knows everybody and everyone's related and everyone's involved and everyone comes back. It's cool in some bits. Obviously, like Ridley coming back, totally fine. Ridley can fly around all space, makes sense. Admiral Dane makes sense. Anthony would be cool with that, but like I don't need like the Luminoth coming back, the Chozo. Like I don't need everybody returning. Like like I would love new characters, and I do expect us to get mostly new characters, if not almost majority new characters, but maybe some returning ones. Let's open up the universe. I would love some new fresh ideas of like different characters, different species, different races, and all that kind of stuff, new planets, new colonies, all that kind of stuff. That's exciting to me. And we already have like the space pirates coming back, we have Sylux coming back. Like let's get some new faces.
Yep, I think that's a good answer and a great question. Maybe let's do one more and then we'll sign it off for this week. One or two more.
I'm down. Let's I can keep going for a little bit longer. So let's do a few more questions here.
All right.
Maybe we all do one more.
All right. Let's all do one more and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Doom, you haven't picked one a little bit. You pick your last question here.
Let's see. I was just gonna scroll down and look for some.
We might have to do three, especially if people add more questions. And you know what? I'm totally down with that. I love doing Q&A.
As we're recording right now, another two questions were added, so we'll have to update this.
Yes.
But,
all right.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go.
No. I was gonna say some of the questions are somewhat similar, so we might not give like super long answers to them. But Doom, go ahead with your question.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this one is from Syriakis, who's always active in our Discord. So shout out to Syriakis. One of the three names of the Federation frigates in Metroid Prime. On a scale from Prime 1 to Prime 3, how often would you want to see Samus interact with other characters in Prime 4? Which I think is a very relevant question, considering how how much we've been talking and how much everyone's been talking about how much that intro very much feels like a continuation of Metroid Prime 3. It's very cinematic. You have lots of camera angles. It's very, you have NPCs, even the radar's updated to, to differentiate friendlies and enemies. And so it's definitely a lot of Prime 3 influence. And so I definitely think that's definitely a relevant question to ask. And this is kind of another one like the question we were asking earlier of, which game do you want the most taken from, which game do you want the least taken from, where I don't necessarily think it's a one or the other situation for me, because, and we've talked about this on, our definitive ranking episode of Prime 3, despite that I much prefer, the isolationist atmosphere of Metroid, I love the intro of Prime 3. I think it kicks so much ass, and I think it absolutely works for that game. And I'm absolutely down to see, this intro that we've seen definitely seems to be looking a lot like that. I'm totally down for something more. I don't want that to be in the entire game. I think that would be a really bad decision. But I think having that in little pockets, I think is awesome. And, definitely, I think, battle chatter and interactions with other NPCs is very important, to those large scale battles that, Prime 3 was trying to simulate, and seemingly Prime 4 with this intro. So I don't necessarily say it's a scale. I don't necessarily think it's a scale from 1 to 10. I think it's selectively choosing areas where you want to emphasize, more of that large scale open warfare, or whether you do want to pull it back and focus on, that more isolationist traditional Metroid experience for me.
I have an answer here. On a scale of Prime 1 to Prime 3, my answer is more than Prime 3. And I'm not saying that I want Samus to be like riddled with characters throughout her whole adventure, but like one thing that I think that feels weird when you play Metroid Prime 3 is you see a bunch of characters talking to Samus, and Samus just says nothing back. And it's really strange, because it's not like Samus hasn't talked before. Like, I would be totally fine, because I mean, yeah, that intro was very Corruption-esque. I gotta imagine there's gonna be some communication with the Galactic Federation. Like, I'm okay if she just has a normal conversation, like a normal person, and like, and that's totally fine. And maybe, again, you don't have to have a companion with you throughout the whole adventure, but like maybe here and there during the point of the game, like in Metroid Dread, for example, or to a lesser extent Metroid Fusion, Adam would just talk to you, and you just sit there and listen and never really say anything back. And it's like, let's just have Samus act like a normal person and have conversation. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make Samus any less. Like, it's not like it kind of breaks your immersion with the game, or somehow makes you feel like you are not playing as Samus. At least it doesn't for me. So, I think that I'm totally fine for a Prime 3 style, like a level of interaction with characters, but like it has to be like a legitimate interaction, or else it's just weird. And if they're not going to do that, if they're going to have Samus be a silent protagonist, then don't have any interaction at all. Like, I feel like it's kind of either no interaction for me, or it's like interaction like a normal person would be, and I would choose a normal person over none. So yeah,
I agree with that. I think, for honestly, because I think we're attacking this question in two ways. I think for majority of the game, it's going to be more like Prime 1, where Samus is not interacting with NPCs and not talking to people. Like, I think we're going to get that Prime 3 bombastic opening, and then majority of the rest of the game is going to be like Prime 1, to be really honest with you, until probably the end of the game, where it goes back to Prime 3 stuff, to be quite honest. So I don't think like Samus is going to be communicating with a lot of NPCs, or even running into a lot of them often. That said, I do agree with you, Andy. When she does, I would like there to be, if there's a cutscene, makes sense to have Samus say something. I would even be down for like Samus has comms from the Federation. She goes like, copy that or whatever, like just like something like every once in a while. Like, I'd be, totally okay with that. The occasional one-liner, I mean, I liked in Dread where she pretty much just said one line. Like, if she just has one line every once in a while, I think that's great, right? I don't think, I think some people are worried about this, and I get it. Like, there's some people who see kind of Samus as like this avatar character. They just want to experience the world. I get that. I think Samus is very clearly a defined character, has her own thoughts and stuff. And even though we're playing through her, we are playing through her character. We're not just playing a blank slate type of character here. So on one hand, I love that we're able to experience the world through her eyes and whatever as that avatar type interaction. But at the end of the day, she's her own character with her own thoughts, own things to say, and whatever. And that's part of the appeal, in my opinion. I'd like to get more of that. So I'm not expecting a ton of NPC interactivity, but
Yeah.
when we get it, I do expect Samus, and I hope she gets something to say. I mean, one of the reasons I love Fusion is because she's introspective and has like talks back and says stuff and is then and even in a lot of ways says something like is almost standing in for the player and is saying stuff that I would say if I were in that situation. So like I like that. I don't need her to be chirping. I don't need her to monologue. I don't need her to go onto the planet and be like, logbook 43, like I and like do all this like crazy stuff. It's not Star Trek, it's not whatever, and it doesn't have to be other M either, right? Like there's so much of a balance you could strike. I do hope we get that more realistic interaction. I think it's going to be Prime 3 kind of towards the beginning, Prime 1, and then Prime 3 at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this in the Discord too, and I kind of used Master Chief specifically in Halo 1 as an example of, Chief in Halo 1, before like all the lore was expanded and the novels were written, was also kind of like, kind of a stock character that you could kind of like, paint yourself, put your face inside the visor of. But that being said, he still had a personality. He didn't talk a lot, but he talked when it made sense. If a character was asking him something and he needed to directly respond. And Andy, you brought up something in Prime 3, which I've always thought is weird. There are so many opportunities where characters are directly talking to Samus, and she just kind of awkwardly just stands there. Doesn't even give like a nod or anything. She'll just like awkwardly stand there, and it's like,
I
hey,
mean,
what
I
are you
get
doing?
that. Like, it's a video game. Like, yeah, there are gonna be situations where you just go up and you interact with the NPC and they say their line at you, and then you walk off. Like, I don't need Samus to acknowledge like every interaction.
Yeah, which is fine. But like when Gandrada's talking to her, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and Samus, like that's when you want something, or
Yeah,
Dane.
like,
You're right.
yeah,
Like
I
it doesn't
agree.
have to be every single NPC, and it doesn't have to be often either. Just when it calls
just
for
in
it.
cutscenes, I'd be
Yeah.
okay with that. Like in Destiny, where like my character
Mm-hmm.
has a voice and says a couple things here and there and has reactions to things in the cutscenes, but like he's
Yeah.
not chirping away during the game, even though I'd be totally okay with that with a couple lines here and there. But like, yeah, I think we're gonna see that, and even with Dread is already starting to push us towards that direction. I think a bit too.
Mm-hmm.
So
A
I
lot
hope
of
we get
questions
that.
like that, by the way, asking about if Samus is going to talk or not.
People
There's
really
at
want to
least
hear
two other
Samus
ones.
talk,
Well,
yeah,
and like I think they
or not,
I think
or
they should.
maybe they don't. Yeah.
All right, Dak.
Do you want me to? I'll take one.
Yeah, you got one, and then I got one highlighted here. So we'll do that, and then we will get to the rest of these next week.
Yeah, well, we got a lot more to go.
Oh,
I'll
we
grab
got a
one
lot.
because I want to go back to some Twitter people because we've been pulled from Discord. But that's a little lesson for y'all. Join our Discord, and you might see a little favoritism. Maybe not. I think it was just ended up that way. I'm gonna do one because it's for my guy here, Ridley, and it's coming from our gameplay extreme. Do you think Ridley will be there? And if so, in what form? As a major villain, a boss, a cameo? Will he be a clone or Ridley himself, enhanced by anything? Yeah, so I would love to be specific on this one. I would love to see Proteus Ridley specifically show up. Like, give us more of that transition from the Meta Ridley form after Ridley stops being Omega Ridley, loses the phases, it's just Ridley again. And then likely the fallout of that, like the losing Phazon, affecting his regenerative stuff or amplifying or whatever, and losing all the meta stuff and transitioning from meta to Proteus Ridley to back to regular Ridley in the later games, provided that's how the timeline of this works out. Yes, definitely expect Ridley to show up. We haven't seen Ridley in a Metroid game in a little while, like since Samus Return. I mean, actually, that's not true. Was in Samus Returns and was in Metroid Prime Remastered, but wasn't in Dread. Wanted to see Ridley and Dread. We didn't get that, so I'm ready for that. I think one of you, I think, made this comment last week or the week before, how like I feel like for retro, Ridley is kind of maybe like a big showcase kind of character or boss. Yeah, I think you
Let's
mentioned
do.
that. So I 100% agree with that. I think like that's a great way to show up what Metroid's all about right there. A great Samus versus Ridley fight. As you all know, I'm a huge Ridley fan myself. I love when Ridley appears, so I'd love to see another awesome, epic Ridley boss battle in 3D and an FPS Metroid. And timeline wise, it seems like it makes sense, but also, yeah, I'm okay with I think Sylux being the major villain. Let Ridley be kind of occupy that role that he usually occupies, like the kind of the B tier, like he's there, he's the enforcer, he's like the Darth Vader
Yeah.
to the Palpatine type of character. not the main focus, there to cause trouble, but it's mostly going to be about Samus and Sylux. I 100% want to fight against Ridley again. It's been too long, especially in a Prime game. So yeah, I hope to see him, and I think we will. Doom, what do you think?
Yeah, so unlike you, I've been on the side where I was like, you know what? Give Ridley a vacation, let him take some time off because we've gotten a lot of Ridley, and so we actually got that in Metroid Dread, and so now it's like, okay, we did it, we got the vacation time. Now we can bring him back to work, and that's absolutely what I want to see in Prime 4. And again, with Retro in particular, like I feel like that team has to be itching to make a Ridley fight. That's like one of the big set pieces of most Metroid games, and seeing like our first HD Ridley fight, our first big 3D Ridley fight in the year 2024. Like what's that going to look? I feel like there's so many exciting possibilities of what you can do with that. And then, like you mentioned, also with the storytelling opportunities, Samus Returns. It's one of the first 2D games that's like directly, directly like mentioned, Prime, in a story, with Proteus Ridley. And I think there's, a lot of connective tissue you could bring there too. With connecting Meta Ridley to Proteus Ridley. I think you don't even bring back Proteus Ridley. I think what you do is bring back a brand new original form, even apart from that transforms into the Proteus Ridley that we eventually encounter in Samus Returns. That would be my route, but I mean, either way, it's Ridley. You can't really go wrong. So
I'd be curious what that would be, because it feels like Proteus Ridley is already that transition between meta and regular. So like, what would be so wild that he would be between meta and Proteus? Like that could be interesting.
I think you start off with the final stage of Meta Ridley, and then like throughout the fight, he transforms into Proteus Ridley as more of his armor is like being damaged and shot off. And maybe there's like some sort of new property where you can actually see him like re-heal in real time, because a lot of his cybernetic parts are now like organic when you see Proteus. Maybe that's something that could actually like affect the gameplay of the boss fight. Maybe the time mechanic influences that as well.
Yeah,
he uses the old beam on himself to regenerate.
Yeah, he did skip forward a few stages there. I actually noticed when I was playing Metroid Prime Remastered that Meta Ridley looks more like Proteus Ridley in the remaster, specifically like that the plate on his head is uncovered. This is a great question. I think we're gonna get Ridley, and I want Ridley, and I think we all want Ridley here. The only thing I'm not sure is how we're gonna get there. Because I actually think in Dread, you could have got to Ridley super, super easy. You have like a Ridley Emmy. Like that would have been, I think we all thought that that was going to happen.
Biggest missed opportunity, not building the new Ridley robot or the Ridley
Emmy. Like
so cool.
It makes sense to me how you could get there with that game. And a couple things influence what's going on with Ridley here. Like when it takes place in the Metroid timeline, is it after Super? It's probably not, but if it is, how do you do that? I guess at the end of the day, like it's a video game. If Retro was just like the Space Pirates revive Ridley again, it's like okay, that's fine. But I would hope for like something, I don't know, a little bit cooler, or like a more different kind of explanation. And maybe that's where time travel or like an alternate universe could come in. Maybe the Space Pirates are looking for that beyond phase, wormhole gimmick in order to go to another dimension to bring back a different version of Ridley.
The peak Ridley, yeah.
I mean, that could be cool. And maybe you got to put that Ridley down, or maybe that's how you just reintroduce Ridley to the Metroid series after the fact. I don't know. Like, I don't know how we get there, but I think that we need to get there. I want Ridley. I think we all want Ridley. I think the fans want Ridley. Like, I do think that, yes, Ridley showed up in Samus Returns. Yes, like in a Metroid Prime Remastered, but it really does feel like it's been a long time since we've had a new Ridley fight in like a new setting in a new game. Like, I love Proteus Ridley, that fight, but it is, somewhat tacked on to the end of the game. And I don't have a problem with that personally, but I do want to see like a more story build up to fighting Ridley like you see in Prime 1 and Prime 3. So right. Let's bring him back, because I'm ready for it. I don't know how we get there, but that's exciting to me. To that, I don't know
how we get there. Maybe it's too simple, but I was just thinking back to my theory of how the story goes, of how like Sylux uses the mock droids or Metroids to kind of take over some of the space pirate forces. And I wonder if literally Ridley's only concern is just trying to win the space pirates back, and he's just tailing Sylux. He doesn't even care about what Samus is doing. He's now focused on Sylux to get the space pirates back, and then by the end of the game, he has them back, and now he can fight. And he's won, and now he's like, oh, now I can take on Samus. I got my space pirates back, you know.
Maybe
Like a little Starscream Megatron rivalry. I dig it. I like it.
Could be kind of fun.
Maybe. I feel like most people would hate this, but like I don't know. Maybe Sylux makes like a Ridley version or something that's not quite Ridley, but sort of Ridley. I don't know. We got to get there somehow, and I think we'll get there. And I'm excited for that because it's been a long time, man, since we faced off with Ridley.
I mean, I think it'd be really cool if they brought back some of the concepts they thought of from the previous trilogy that they didn't get to, expound on a little bit. Like the original idea for the Ridley fight, going through the cavern and like fighting him on the ship. Or like,
I mean, just like a
Ridley concept,
like a spaceship fight. Like, oh
yeah, they kind of someone actually pointed out to me how that ship fight ended up kind of happening in Brawl, because you fight Ridley in that kind of way on top of the ships in both times and in Brawl. And I'm like, just do that, just do that fight, like that would be sick, And we know Retro loves Ridley so much that they put him in Prime 3 twice. You fight him literally, like I would be cool with that, like fight Ridley again at the beginning of Prime 4. Fight him again later in the game. Why not? Twice. 2 Ridley. Double Ridley.
We'll see.
I'm probably asking for too much, but I think it would be so awesome if he was like a surprise boss fight and they didn't. Obviously, if he's in the game, they're going to show him off in the trailers. It's Ridley, for crying out loud. But I think that would be like such a sick surprise. You just don't even see him coming at all, and he just corners you, and it's like, oh, I don't know. I think that'd be awesome. Probably wouldn't go down like that though.
I'd be down for that. He just shows up and you just start fighting. I'm like, oh, all right, Ridley fight. Let's go.
I would pop off so hard, and during my little stun phase, he would just absolutely wreck me because I think that I'd be deer in the headlights.
but that would be, I think, work best if he shows up twice. I agree with Andy. It would be nice to have that story reason because I feel like if he just shows up,
it would be amazing.
He's not there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you want to sell Ridley too because like a lot of people know Ridley.
It would be kind of cool if he does show up twice, he shows up the first time by surprise, a super surprise attack, and then you get a little more build up in story time with him maybe later, and then you get the final face off again. But Andy, what's your last question here? What do you got?
Maybe a somber question here, but I thought that it was an interesting question. This is actually from the second Syriacus that we have in our Discord, Kevin, the Syriacus. Do you guys think that if Retro Studios worked on Metroid Prime 4 beforehand, before the delay, before everything happened, when it was first announced in 2017, do you think we would have gotten it by now?
I mean, yeah? But I mean, probably. Yeah. But at the same time, we're here now. Maybe three years ago that would have been depressing to think about, but like now when we know it's coming out next year, I mean theoretically it could be delayed, but I'm pretty confident it's going to come out next year like they're promising. Yep. At this point I feel like they wouldn't want to mess that up. At this point it's like, yeah, they should have gone with retro at the beginning, but they didn't. They learned their lesson and we're here now. We're going to see it next year.
We have some pals over on Twitter that are very critical of not going with retro in the very beginning, and I get it, like, but at the same time, like, that's such hindsight 2020 vision. Like, if Metroid Prime in 2001, if the Nintendo would have been like, this is ridiculous, this game development is ridiculous, the owner is, and you should check that episode out, by the way, the history of Retro Studios, it's insane. And if they would have said, like, we're giving this to another, like, developer, like, everyone would have been like, oh, well, of course you are. Why would you give it to these bunch of bums? Like, they don't know what they're doing. And that didn't happen, and instead the game comes out, masterpiece, and Retro Studios is a made studio for history. And you know what? Same thing with Mercury Steam. Like, if Mercury Steam would have made a crappy Metroid game, it'd be like, what are you guys thinking? Why are you giving it to that game? Or that studio. So the point is that, like, it's easy to say in hindsight, like, yeah, you should have went with Retro at the very beginning, but maybe Retro was working on something cool that now is never going to be released.
It might not have even been like, what if Retro was like, actually, we don't want to do Metroid Prime at the time. They spent 1 decade working on Metroid. They spent the next decade pretty much working on Donkey Kong. Like, what if they came to them originally and were like, hey, we want you to work on Metroid Prime again? Yeah. And they're like, no, we didn't want it. We want to do something new. We want to do something different. And then eventually they went back to him again. They're like, okay, we really need you. Like, here's more money, blah, blah. And Retro took it, which probably is what happened. And that's probably great for Retro,
I think that's probably exactly what happened.
I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, Nintendo screwed up. It could have been the other way, that Retro just didn't want to do it at the time. So, yeah.
I don't
But
necessarily think they didn't want to do it, but I do think it's almost
It's a
certainly likely they were
possibility.
working on. I do think like it's almost certain that they were working on something else and they were just unavailable.
Yeah. You heard a lot of rumors about that Star Fox game, the Star Fox Grand Prix, and where there's enough smoke, there's fire, I think. Like, I think that was probably a real thing at some point. I don't know how far along, but, like, maybe real
been
enough
just,
that, like, people
thought
were
about.
talking about it or making pitches for it anyways. But
That would have been cool.
it would have been cool. And now we'll probably never get that because they're doing Metroid Prime 4, which is, you know, the little give and take that you do with these things. So, I mean, yeah, you know, we probably would have been playing this game by now, but hey, I mean, who knows if that happens, if they don't go and acquire some of this other talent that is maybe not available at the time, like a lot of the developers that worked on like Call of Duty and other FPS games, and get those ideas in and, you know, make the game what it hopefully is going to be, which is a great game. So yeah, you know, you probably would have been playing it, but hey, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, probably would have been playing it. Probably still would have been delayed a bit by COVID, but I think by now we would be playing it. So I think it ended up working out in the end, or it won't. But we'll see. I think we probably would have been playing it by now, but we'll probably end up getting the better game. So.
And hey, never forget this. You may not have got Metroid Prime 4. It might have got delayed, but man, Metroid Dread was real. That came out, and like that was absolutely insane. So you know, who knows? Maybe if Metroid Prime 4 comes out in 2021, maybe Metroid Dread isn't out yet, or I don't know. But you know, that's just the way it goes. We'll never know, and everything happens for a reason. So there we go. Okay, well, we have a ton of questions that are left over here. An absolute ton of questions. So thank you so much to everybody that asked them, because you're putting us to work here. If we didn't get to your question this week, we're definitely going to get to them next week. But at the rate we're going, we might have to do part 3. I don't know, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, I will say that, to be fair, I'm looking through more of these questions. Some of them are similar to others. So if we also don't get to your question, it's likely because it is being answered by answering someone else's question. So please keep that in mind and listen to both episodes so you can see if that's the case. But yeah, we have a bunch left to go. I love doing these because we're talking. Everyone comes up with cool questions of like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. Didn't even think about that. So yeah.
Lock on Morph Ball? Are you kidding me? That's great. That's good stuff.
Yeah, shout out to Lock on Morph Ball.
Such a good idea.
I love Lock on Morph Ball. I'm totally down for Lock on Morph Ball. I'm even down for Slow Beam. Bring Slow Beam. Bring Old Beam. Bring the Lock on Ball. Let's do it.
All right. Well, there we go, guys. That is part 1 of our Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Q&A in the books, and we're going to be back next week doing part 2, so make sure that you are checking us out for that. And hey, make sure that you're checking us out over wherever you get your podcast. Go like, subscribe, recommend, rate, review, all that kind of stuff. If you got someone in your life excited for Metroid Prime 4, tell them about this podcast. We're doing it weekly. We're the only people crazy enough to make a weekly Metroid podcast, so you know, give us some love, share it around, and tell your friends. The other thing that we'll encourage you guys to check out is OmegaMetroid.com. If you're playing the Metroid Prime Trilogy in anticipation, we got guides, we got maps, we got news, we got all kinds of good stuff over there. Theme song to the podcast that you hear here. Our YouTube channel has video archives of all of our shows, so that's a cool thing that you should check out as well. We do have a Patreon. Our Patreon is at spnet.com. Patreon.com/spnet, excuse me. The Great Metroid Area Ranking is rolling along there. We had a great show earlier this week where we talked to a couple different areas. That was a fun time. So go and check that out. And lastly, give us a shout, or give us a follow rather, wherever you get or over on social. Sorry guys, I'm dying here in the outro. Omega Metroid Pod. You can check us out on Twitter. You can check me out at Spiteri316. You can check Dak out at DakCity_. And lastly, check Doom out at Doomit'll_. We are at the end. We're gonna get out of here. It's a late night recording, but man, no better way to spend a Canada Day than with you two guys. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Yeah, same to you, man. Glad we could celebrate Canada Day with some great Prime 4 questions.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well,
wait, real quick. I want to jump to leave all of the listeners with a question. So I'm gonna read one of the last questions. It's not one more question here, folks, but we're not gonna answer it today.
Okay.
The three of us are gonna think about it, and then y'all are gonna think about it, and you're gonna let us know what you all think. and then we'll let you all know what we think and what you all think next episode. It's a very important question from Harky Man.
Oh
The
no.
question is Sylux Joey from the Joey and Samus and Joey manga? We're not going to answer it now, but I want to hear what you all think at home, listening, or wherever you are. Do you think Sylux is Joey? And Andy and Doom, I want to know what you all think next week is Sylux Joey.
This is important, and don't just rush to your answer. You need to think about this.
Think about it. Take some time. Leave us your comments in on Twitter or on Discord before the recording of the next episode, so we can read a few of your replies on the show. So let us know.
There it is.
This one's open book, so don't be shy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. To all the Canadians out there, happy Canada Day. To all my American friends, happy 4th of July. Enjoy your long weekend coming up here. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here. Thank you to everybody that asked a question and submitted a question. You guys made this show a ton of fun to do and super easy to do as well. So shout out to you guys. Until next week, everybody, let us know. Is Sylux Joey? And if you got any other questions, it's not too late to sneak them into our Discord channel. So until then, everybody, take care.